Okay, hello there. My name is Ahmad Laduni. Today, I want to show you about my answer to the question for Advanced Listening Task 2. So let's get started. Part number 1. Answer this question. Number 1. Describe the condition of homeless in USA. Over half of a million people are homeless, with about a third of those being children. About one in five people suffer from a mental health issue. About half of women who are homeless have been the victims of domestic abuse. Around a quarter of the homeless are employed, but unfortunately the cost of living for many people is just beyond of their means in current income. Number two, what is the fact of the women who are homeless? About half of women who are homeless have been the victims of domestic abuse. Number three, based on the audio how that person has a real compassion for others. He just assumes that people need help and try not to assume that a person's plight has been self-inflicted every time. Number four, mention and explain the facts of homeless. Homelessness is a concern in almost every place you go around the world. But as human beings, we often come up with overly simplistic reasons why people live on the streets or in homeless shelters. And this perception overlimits our abilities to have real compassion for others. Some reason can include loss of employment, traumatic event, such as natural disaster, such as natural disaster that damages that destroy our family's home, and substance abuse, and so on. Number five, retell that audio using your own words. The audio tells about homelessness that is a concern in almost every place you go around the world. We often don't think much about it unless it touches our life in a personal way, but we often come up with overly simplistic reasons why people live on the streets or in homeless shelters. And this perception often limits our abilities to have real compassion for others. The reasons are loss of employment, a traumatic event such as a natural disaster that damages or destroys a family's home, and substance abuse, and the list goes on and on. The facts on homelessness are stark, something the speaker wants to discuss as it applies to the United States where the speaker lives. In USA alone, over half a million people are homeless, with about a third of those being children. About one of five people suffer from a mental health issue. About half of women who are homeless have been the victims of domestic abuse. Around a quarter of the homeless are employed, but unfortunately, the cost of living for many people is just beyond their means and current income. There are a number of things that people can do to alleviate the pain and suffering of those who are in desperate need of help. The speaker said that he tries not to assume that a person's plight has been self inflicted every time. Furthermore, His intention in telling this story isn't to show how great we were for helping the man. Far from it, so many other people serve humbly and anonymously in far greater ways that we do, and people like you can make a small difference in the small acts of generosity we do each day that can make a difference. Part number two, answer this question. Number one, what is the main problem of this story? A girl named Goldilocks snuck into the house of the three bears without any permission. She ate the bears' porridges and slept on their chamber. The bears realized that there was someone ate their porridge and slept on their chamber. After Goldilocks realized that the bears come back angrily, she went over to the forest and never come back. Number two, describe the characteristic of the bears. One of them was a little small wee bear with small wee voice. One was a middle-sized bear with middle voice. The other one was a great huge bear with a great huge voice. Number three, why do the bears feel angry with the girl? Because the Goldilocks or the little girl snuck into the bears' house, ate their porridges, and slept on their chamber without their permit, and it made the bears angry to the Goldilocks. Number four, why does the girl call Goldilocks? Because she had golden curls that tumbled down her back to her waist. So she used to call Goldilocks. Number five, make a note. This story tells of a little girl named Goldilocks who enters the home of three bears while they are out for a walk in the woods. She finds three bowls of porridge on the table and decides to try them out. The first bowl is too hot, the second bowl is too cold, and the third bowl is just right. She also finds three chairs, and while the first two are too big and too small, respectively, the third chair is just right. Goldilocks falls asleep in the third chair, and when the bears return home, they find her sleeping. She wakes up and runs away as fast as she can, never to return again. The meaning of the story is that don't ever walk into the property or house that it is not even your own. Respect each other's property and belongings like you respect your own. Part number three, Aladdin and the Wonderful Lamps. Aladdin is a son of a poor tailor. He is a lazy young man who always plays with the idle people like him. He met an African magician who claimed himself as his uncle, but Aladdin's mom told him that his uncle is already dead and never told her that he is still alive, but they welcomed him anyway. The magician tricks Aladdin into retrieving a magical lamp from an underground cave, but then tries to kill him after Aladdin found the lamp that they talked about. The magician revealed himself and trapped Aladdin. He was trapped there for several days until he discovered the magic ring that allowed him to summon the genie who helped him escape. Later on, he came back to his home and he was starving. His mother robbed the lamb and she uses her brand to give them extravagant meals and foods. Aladdin told his mother about the magician. She told him to avoid that and sell the lamp, but Aladdin told her to keep it anyway. One day, Aladdin peeped the princess and saw her beautifulness and made him fall in love on her. Aladdin told his mother to give the sultan, who is the princess's father, to give them magic foods. His mother told the sultan that Aladdin fell in love on the princess and desired to marry her. The sultan agreed for them to be married, but they need to bring 40 basins of gold filled with jewels carried by black and white slaves. Aladdin uses the genie's power to bring them all and to make a great palace. They use the genie's power to bring them power, wealthy, and security. Far from there, in Africa, the magician knew about Aladdin's power, wealthy, and married with the princess, which made him angry. He sought Aladdin for revenge for what he'd done. The magician went to China and saw a great palace which owned by Aladdin himself. The magician disguised himself by selling fake lamps made by coppers. The princess sent her slave to investigate and found out that the old lamp can be exchanged for the new one. The princess fell for it. When the another slave took the lamp from the cornice, which is owned by Aladdin, the magician uses the lamp to move the palace to the remote place in Africa. The Sultan found out the palace was disappeared in shock. Aladdin became a victim of it, but the people gathered to save him. The Sultan commanded him to bring the palace and princess back or he will face a death. Aladdin uses his magic ring to rescue them. He found the princess and told her to fool the magician by told the magician that she wants to be with him and also she wants to drink wine from Africa. Then the magician agreed and little did he knew she poured the powder from Aladdin to his cup. It was a poisonous powder. Suddenly, the magician dies, and they returned back to and they returned back to home smoothly. However, the happiness was not going to last long because far from Africa, the magician's brother knew about what happened to his brother death and wanted to take a revenge. He went to the Aladdin's palace and met a young holy woman named Fatima. He threatened her with a dagger and killed her. People later gathered around him and seek blessings. The princess sent her slave to investigate him. He disguised as a young holy woman. and seek the prince's intentions to enter the palace. He went to the palace, and the princess, impressed the hall, inquired his opinion. He responded with beautiful. He wants a roc's egg, said Aladdin's wife, causing her to become upset when he returned. He asked what was wrong, and she said she needed a roc's egg. Aladdin summoned the genie and asked for one. The genie shrieked and berated the person for asking to hang their master. He blamed them and their family for deserving to be burned, but acknowledged the request came from the magician's brother. He is at your palace, pretending to be the mother, holy woman who inspired your wife's wish. Take care, he will kill you, warned the genie before vanishing. Aladdin returned to the princess, claiming a headache and asking for Holy Fatima's healing touch. Aladdin stabbed the magician as he approached. The princess asked in shock, "Why?" Aladdin explained he didn't kill the holy woman, but a magician. They lived peacefully, and he succeeded the sultan and reigned for years, leaving a line of kings. That's pretty much it from me. Thank you.